We are officially in session. Today's the first full day of spring, and with that brings rain. So, wow. Gotta love that. We're going to rise for the pledge, and after that, if you wish, we will have a moment of silence. Want to make sure that we keep all of our armed forces, all of those in armed forces and public safety, and keep the family of former Governor Hughes in your prayers today and thoughts. His funeral is today in Annapolis. Okay? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Priority Carol, gentlemen, what do you have? Which way are we going? Well, last week I started over here.
Start over there.
Let me start over here. What do you got, Commissioner Frazier?
Well, I went to the Sources of Strength information session, I guess it was, at the school board last week. I can't remember what day it was, but very informative. I did learn a lot more about that program than I learned when we were just told, about it at the very beginning. It seems like it's a very good program. I actually asked for some additional information, some statistical information to find out how well it's doing in other places, and is it really worth it? Is it moving forward? From what I heard, I'm behind it, but I haven't looked at all the other information that I've seen so far. But it was very, very informative. A lot of people were there, a lot of stakeholders were there to hear the presentation, and I thought it was very good. I just mentioned the Boys and Girls Club, and I know everyone else is there, so you guys can go into that, but they had their groundbreaking for their gym. Big step forward. Nice job.
Absolutely.
A lot of activities happened over this past week. The one I'd like to highlight that Commissioner Wentz and I attended yesterday afternoon was the birthing center over at Carroll Hospital. The renovations that were done. I think it's been a 2-year project, but what it really showed me was the testament to our county, to our community. It was the professionals in the hospital. It was the community that has raised a lot of money to make this happen. It was the county. It was the state, all pushing together. It was the business itself, LifeBridge, and the hospital coming together to making this happen. And talk about a state-of-the-art facility. Really impressive how it's going to also be networked into the community college. They were also there in attendance, and we talked about their programs in nursing and how that feeds into the hospital. Just a really nice way to show this is what this community is about. So that's it.
Yeah, it's a cool
Yeah.
event. And the pink lemonade was good too.
Well, Commissioner Wentz and I spent Saturday together, I guess.
We did.
We had the Community Expo at Manval, well attended, community turned out, it was a nice event. And then I attended the 88th year of service from Pleasant Valley Community Fire Department. The MC was a really interesting character at that event, but it went well. It was a very nice event. Thank you, Commissioner Wentz, for
Is that all you're going to say about the
I presume you were the MC.
Yeah.
What gave it away, Eric?
Anytime one of us takes a shot at you.
It was a nice turnout, and I think your wife had 40 years of service there?
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
I think she's not that old, so.
She started at birth, right?
Yeah.
She was 2 years old when she joined there.
Anyway, it was a nice day. I was all positive, what I saw happening in the county.
Well, on Friday, State Controller Peter Franchot visited Mount Airy to honor 2 businessmen, Mr. Iliano and Mr. Wagner, for their 30-plus years of dedication, service, and commitment to the community. So we're very grateful to be honored and recognized by a state representative at that level. Also, on March 27th, the Winfield Volunteer Fire Department will do opioid overdose training from 7 to 9. I encourage people to go to the website and get information on registering and engaging in that training. Considering the epidemic is so rampant, it's an important training to have. Thank you.
And
Very Very good.
Just what I can piggyback on that, I did stop by at Wagner Brothers when our state comptroller was up here. He spends a lot of time in Carroll County. It's really nice to have somebody from the Board of Public Works in Carroll County on an almost monthly basis. Last month, we were at another event, he's up here, so that's great to have people in Annapolis come to us.
Sometimes.
Be nice.
Get Business Now was last Friday at Carroll Community College. I want to commend my colleague, Commissioner Rothstein, for doing a great introductory for the deputy secretary who was here. That was well attended out there. A lot of small business people, so I want to give kudos to that. You made an ugly, you really made an ugly baby yesterday, so there's that. But that is,
Not sure where that's going.
Ugly, he's an ugly baby.
I'm
He's an ugly
not-
baby in the thing.
I'm not
Whatever.
sure where that.
Yeah, okay, whatever. Anyway, and
It's going.
last night I attended another event by Carroll County Public Library, which they do amazing things here, in conjunction with A Likely Story, the bookstore in your district, Commissioner Rothstein. They partner with them to bring a lot of great authors here. So last night Harlan Coben was here, and he was at the Arts Center, sold out, standing room only, and what an incredible individual. I've been to a lot of these author events. This guy is by far, I don't know if you read any of his books. We've read a bunch, he's got a couple movies that are out. Just an incredible individual.
And
he was interviewed by who?
Yeah.
And I was getting here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was interviewed by our own, what's his name again? Ted Zaleski, who did a great job, one-on-one on stage for about 20 minutes with Harlan. But Harlan sort of led the conversation because he's got a tremendous sense of humor, and just gave a really good insight into how he writes these books. And if you ever get a chance to go to these author events, they are really cool. So check the Carroll County Public Library website, and they're fun events to go to. So I think that's it.
Just
right?
want to wish luck to University of Maryland basketball tournament.
Oh, yeah, it's today.
NCAA start,
3
and
o'clock.
also a couple of wrestlers from University. At least one I know, the heavyweight meet is wrestling in the NCAA's as well. So good luck to our University of Maryland athletes in the tournaments.
Yeah, Towson's in it too. Towson's in it. The women are in the NCAA.
Yep,
Thank
first
you.
time.
First time.
First time for them.
Yeah, and isn't Mount St. Mary's in the big dance too? I think.
I don't know.
I don't know.
And a big shout out to Miss DeWeese, who is playing for Quinnipiac on Saturday.
Saturday,
Quinnipiac.
Quinnipiac up in Connecticut, and they're playing Saturday. So big shout out to her, and kudos to the family
Yep.
for the tournament. So.
All right. So with that being said, first on the agenda this morning is Mr. Fowler with great news from Annapolis.
Always
right,
great
Mike?
news.
Right.
Nothing but good news
There
comes
you
out of
go.
Minneapolis. Morning, Commissioners.
Good
to
morning.
see you. I've got 2.5 weeks left. I guess that's good news, right?
Yeah. There you go. Okay. Thanks a lot. Next on our agenda.
And crossover was Monday. That's another piece of good news. So all of your bills have crossed over. The county bond bill's been passed in its, obviously cross-filed bills, so passed in its respective chambers, and they're heard in the opposite chambers. One was heard Tuesday, the other one next week, so we're fine there. The Sunday gaming prohibition is moving. I think I mentioned to you there was a difference in the enactment dates, and that'll be hashed out, and that'll move through fine. One of there's two big kahunas, I think, at the moment. One's the minimum wage bill, which was passed. It went to conference, came out of conference with an agreement. One of the big issues was the reimbursements for developmentally disabled community, and there was a compromise there. The House had reduced it. The Senate had increased a little bit, so they've compromised at 4% is the number. And also, they agreed to slow the implementation for small business. We talked about that. So the $15 limit or $15 level will arrive on January 1st, 2025 for all businesses, with the exception of small businesses, which are defined as 14 or less employees. And that will go to $15 on July 1st, 2026. So a little slow in the implementation. The governor is very disappointed. He'll likely veto the bill. I think obviously the Democrats have the ability to override that veto. So I see that going forward. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I think he claimed in a decade after that implementation, he's estimating the state will lose 99,000 jobs and $61 billion in economic activity. So he's very disappointed, to say the least. The other big kahuna, the other half of the big kahuna is capital budget. And the House version was passed last week, and the Senate version is up for a final floor vote today. All the debate went on yesterday. A lot of debate about a particular aspect of education funding, and that's the BOOST program to private schools. A number of the senators wanted to bring that back down. The House cut it very significantly in their version, and the Senate did not. And there was a lot of debate around that yesterday, but the Senate has kept that funding in there. So they're not that far off, I guess, relatively speaking. The House version is $46.7 billion, and the Senate version is $46.6 billion. But there are changes, there are differences in education funding. The House's version is significantly higher in education funding. One good thing in the capital budget, the turf field bond was approved for $150,000, so that will go through. The special disability allowance for fire and police that we've been talking about, House Bill 645, that's passed the House. Last week, I think we weren't sure about where it was in the Senate, but it is scheduled to be heard next Thursday. So it passed unanimously in the House. I suspect it will go through in its current form. The Next Generation 911 bill has passed both houses. There were some amendments offered up in each house, so I'm sure that they will get ironed out as well. Renewable energy bill, we haven't talked about that too much, but that's the Clean Energy Jobs Act, and that would require 50% of the power in the state to be from renewable sources by 2030. It did pass the Senate. Not certain how the House is going to act. The chairman of House Economic Matters, Derek Davis, is usually pretty conservative when it comes to utility legislation, and I'm not so sure he is completely on board with that. So we'll have to see how that goes. Senator Hester's Innovative Schools bill is going to be heard in the House Appropriations Committee today. It did pass the Senate. There were a couple of friendly amendments proposed and included. And that one of those amendments was that the counties would be able to approve the MOU between the respective boards, and that's in the Senate version. The septic bill, our favorite bill we've been talking about, House Bill 190, that did pass the House. Now, the Senate committee hearing is next week. We're working with MACO to have cesspools treated the same as the other septic systems in the bill, which means they would have to exhibit some type of degradation to be considered failing, which is I think, pretty significant step. So Les Knapp of MACO has discussed this with the proponents of the bill, the environmental community, and they're on board with that change. They believe that's fair. He was going to be talking with Delegate Lafferty, who's the sponsor of the bill. I'm going to see Les tomorrow, if not today, and see where we are on that.
No, I appreciate it. Again, I think that's a testament to the community reaching out with their concerns with the bill, us being able to work together, to influence the outcome of this bill. And I appreciate your work and persistence on doing this. But again, you know, we do matter with the, what we're saying, we being the county and the community, and this is a good example of that. So keep working it, and with the intent that it'll get the adjustments necessary and the amendments necessary. I would, you know,
Yeah, and I think the data that we arrived at was pretty significant.
absolutely.
Right, so I think that should sway some opinion
I never
too, but-
thought I would be talking septic and cesspools a couple years ago, but, you know, it matters, and it matters to the community, so I appreciate it.
Very good, very good. And just generally, if you've been reading the headlines, you know what some of the furor in Annapolis now is with the issues around the University of Maryland Medical System Board and some members essentially with business deals with the system. The lead in that is Mayor Pugh, obviously. She has resigned from the board, and several of the board members have resigned as well. So that is going to play out. And I understand that the speakers introduced some legislation to propose reforming the board. So we'll see how that plays out. That's going to be, I think, top of the fold for the rest of the session, I'm sure. Also, I think some concerns about the chancellor and the board of regents at the University of Maryland system. So problems in our I think there are pretty significant systems we have in the state here.
Yeah, it's
Pretty prominent.
It's a shame that it's gotten to that level. It really is. So I went to the shock trauma board meeting on Tuesday, and it was interesting to see what seats were empty. For the record, I'm very clean, okay? Just point that out. Got nothing. No business
no
deals
business
with the
deals.
University of
You
Maryland.
didn't write a book and sell it to
Nope,
them?
no book.
kids' books?
Nope, no kids' books. So, but it's interesting. It's unfortunate. I've said this many times. You just, I don't understand why folks just don't go by the rules. I've never understood that. So,
Well, they claim to be legal,
right,
but
yeah,
appearances mean a lot too,
yes, they do.
in the political world particularly. But one other thing that's just come to our attention, it's kind of related, I think, to something you're going to talk about, but the Senate inserted into the BRFA, the Budget Reconciliation and Financing Act, a requirement that a county's delegation needs to approve its letter of transportation priorities that goes to the state. Now, that's something you typically do every year. I think it adds a few other wrinkles in there. You have to attach some maps, and you have to describe how it aligns with the state's transportation priorities. But I don't necessarily see that as a problem for you. Sounds to me like it's something, again, driven by those counties that are at odds with the governor and his transportation priorities. So we'll see how that goes forward.
Yeah, we've got no worries there. So,
And I think today you'll be testifying on
Yeah,
the
there's a
bill that creates
volunteer-
a task force
Right, there's a
to look at
volunteer,
volunteer fire services
yep.
in the state.
yep. So when you're done, I'm done, and I'll be turning the gavel over in the capable hands of Commissioner Rothstein, and we're gonna fly to Annapolis.
And you have a parking space at 75 Franklin Street.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate that, because I think it's going to be kind of jammed up down there with the
Yes.
funeral going on today.
Well, it's a service. He's actually, his funeral is in Denton.
Okay.
But there's a
There's a
memorial
service at-
service for him today.
And it's
in
on Duke of
Indianapolis.
Gloucester Street, right? So that's going to jam.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Question for you, the solar task force, where is that?
Hasn't moved yet.
So the expectation is they will not establish a solar task force through legislation?
I don't want to predict that.
If you were
But
to
it's pretty
predict
late
that.
in the session and it hasn't moved.
Okay, that's good news,
Yeah.
because I don't think we were postured to have the best representation from the county or the rural community to
Right.
have those discussions. So, yeah, I am concerned as we are looking at how we are applying solar energy and for zoning and for establishing the best solar energy practices in our county, and to go into our master plan. I want to make sure that, one, it's in line with what the state is doing, but also, more importantly to me, is that the state doesn't bully us into a position that, conflicts with what we want to achieve. So,
Yes, and I think that the state will be looking for the counties to have gone through some type of process and
Okay.
identified areas that are suitable for it. So the fact that you're working to develop
Right.
that, I think, is a very good thing.
okay, thanks.
Anything else for Mike?
Good luck.
Yep. Very entertaining down there.
That's one way to describe it.
Safe travels.
Okay, I'm going to turn the
Yep.
agenda over to Commissioner Rothstein, and we're heading to
Sure.
Annapolis.
It's a good thing I'm a lefty. Okay, item 2. Ms. Linda, why don't you come on up? Come out, request approval and signature priority letter, for county transportation priorities. Ms. Linda, Ms. Mary,
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning, ladies.
As Commissioner Weaver had requested, we brought maps so we could
right.
see where the priorities are located. So as we came before you last week, we did make adjustments to the letter. You should have received those for this morning with regards to the intersection of Maryland 26 and 32 and its breakout project. And also the removal of Maryland 30 from the priority letter based on our discussion. And I had met with Commissioner Wance about Maryland 97, and given that the scope of where the community center is located and the scope of the 97 project, that was not a breakout project from what we have. We're not dualizing that far north, so it wasn't appropriate at this time to make that a breakout project. But I know he's had discussions with State Highway Administration, and so have I, to kind of formulate a game plan for what can be done moving forward. And they agreed too that this letter may not be the appropriate venue to put the recommended turning lanes for the community center in the letter at this time.
although it's not breakout, we could still put it in as a priority. I understand and recognize that a breakout is something that is within a plan, a swath of road that's being done. Instead of the whole swath being done, you just take one piece and that's called a breakout. And it may not be the plan to renovate or revise or change 97 in the north, but this is still a priority to the county if we're gonna move forward with Charles Carroll. And we gotta be careful that if I'm looking at funding Charles Carroll, in the budget, that we're doing it with the sense that this road is gonna be done, either in conjunction or because if not, then my concern is we're gonna be allocating money and it may not get anywhere if we don't identify this road as being fixed. So I think it is a priority to adjust on.
How does this align with the state priorities that Mike just brought up?
So this is a priority based on a project that the county is doing. It's not necessarily a priority for capacity enhancing, and that's what the objective of this letter. Certainly, as Commissioner Rothstein said, if we want to make that a priority to put that we would want to see that section improved, we can certainly do that in the letter. I'm sorry for the confusion on that. After my discussion, it seemed like that was not the direction to head in, but we can certainly add that in as a priority.
I think it's much more important to keep 97 from Bachman Valley Road to 140. Concentrate on that part of 97 because that's where congestion is. That's where all the traffic problems are, if you ask me, on that road. And if you're looking at the state priorities of relieving congestion on the roadways, that's the area which you have to hit on 97 right now. So I think that needs to be put in there. I see what you're saying about community center and so forth. And something probably needs to be done there. I think this is much more important right now. I really do, for capacity for that road.
I think, again, walking into this, is Charles Carroll Community Center a priority for the county itself? For the center to become a community center. It's been put into the capital budget, so therefore it is a priority. In order for it to get the results we want, 97 has to be developed. And,
I don't,
you
okay.
know, but.
I don't see how you can make that leap,
Yeah.
but okay.
Okay. Well, we're directed to by state highway. By MDOT said, in order for you to put the community center in place and open this community center, that 97 has to be adjusted to meet the need. So if that's the case, then, and if it's a priority of ours to do, then we got to make sure that it's visible to the state, that it should be a priority for them as well.
We don't have a choice.
We don't have a choice. That's the whole point. I mean, if it's not a priority to the county for Charles Carroll, then I'm not concerned with it. But if it is a priority to the county, which I think it is,
We set that
Right.
3 years ago.
right, so if
Yeah,
I
it
inherited
is.
that, then in order for us to do it, we got to be able to have 97 adjusted. So therefore, the state needs to be aware that that has to be a priority. Now, it may not be a priority for us to drive them to do it, but it needs to be very visible for them that a state highway adjustment has to be done in order for us to, I mean, am I missing,
No.
you know? And again, this is not my district up there, not, but if it's a county, as I'm looking at this, priority, then what are the priorities for the state highways that need to be done that are in conjunction or in coordination with the priorities of our county? I'd rather do it that way than flip it the other way, saying, are we looking at the highways because these are highway priorities for the state? You know, what do we want? And I think we want Charles Carroll to be established from what I've
It's already
been told.
started.
So, then,
So that kind of drives the priority for us.
right. I don't know, I'm not sure what I'm
I'm just,
missing.
it's not a, the way I look at the letters is to alleviate congestion on the roads and to help with traffic flow and that kind of thing. That's how I'm looking at this, and that's what our priorities have been, at least the time I've been on the board. Charles Carroll Community Center is the priority, there's no doubt about that, or we wouldn't put the money aside for it.
Right.
However, what you're looking at for turning lanes and so forth, it's not a congestion problem. And the state, as you said, has already identified that needing to be done. They know it's on their scope already. Should it go in this letter or should it go somewhere else?
Is
my question.
Yeah, is the priority to MDOT, is the county priority letter, now this is me being the new guy, understand this, but is the priority to MDOT solely focused on congestion of the highways? Or is the priority letter designed to MDOT for the county to then tell the state, these are the things that we want done to state highways, you know? And that's 97, 30, 26, 32, 851, the main streets, you know, in our municipalities. If it's that, if it's the latter, then we should put, you know, what's in, you know, what has to be done in order for us to achieve the results we want to achieve in the county, which means the ingress, egress routes of 97 by Charles County Community Center.
So
Charles Carroll, right? Yeah.
it's a little bit of both.
Well,
And, you know, the main objective is for these capacity-enhancing larger projects that are identified in the Consolidated Transportation Program for the state, that big book that we get at tour.
Right.
And that lists all of the major projects. If this is a priority, and it can certainly be put in the letter, it can diminish a little bit the other priorities underneath of that according to how they review the letter. So I think the decision by the board is how do you want to prioritize this in terms of the other items that are listed?
my thought is if Charles Carroll Community Center is a priority for the county and a major project for the county, in order for it to achieve the results we want to achieve, 97 has to be adjusted. And I don't think it's going to diminish anything. I think it's in line with what our requirements are. That's my 2 cents. I mean, I'm not worried about the length of this. I'm worried about putting the priorities that the county wants to see done where, you know, there's state requirements and there's state highways. If we're gonna do it all ourselves, then I wouldn't worry about it, but I don't wanna do it all ourselves. I want the state to recognize that this is a requirement that needs to be done and adjusted on the highway for the county to receive the, you know, get the results we want, so.
Well, where would you put that in the letter?
So.
Because it's not a highway capacity enhancement project.
I don't know if I would add it into the Maryland 97, perhaps just as its own separate project, maybe right at the beginning, if you want that to be the top priority, because it's beyond the scope of Maryland 97, as this
Yeah.
project states, and that's been a long-term scope that
Right.
has been worked out with State Highway Administration of where the need is for capacity enhancing. So perhaps in that first paragraph, saying that the county needs assistance with regards to, I think there was a decel lane and a left turn lane that were recommended. So perhaps that would be put in at the very, I would say at the very beginning of the document.
Are there?
That first letter?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, the
No,
first
first
letter.
paragraph. First paragraph.
It's one letter.
So, but if it's more of a priority, I would say no. I would say maybe in that first or second paragraph, what we're saying in this year we'd like to work on, here are the following priorities. So I would break it out even maybe before highway capacity enhancing projects.
Why not just have a separate paragraph talking about the state highways that are connected to county priorities or county priority projects? And this, because this community center is a priority project, I believe. So what are the things that needs to be accomplished from the state for us to achieve the projects that we believe are priorities? And just have it as a separate paragraph. Are there other projects in the county where we need the state to change the highways or make adjustments to the roads? You know, I mean, the Freedom Plan, you know, in order for the Freedom Plan to have the success we want the Freedom Plan to have, 32 and 26 need to continue to be a priority, right? I mean, that's, so it could be done twice. You could say, hey, here's our priorities, but also in addition, like more ammunition, more value to the priority. This is why 26 and 32, because it's tied directly to the Freedom Plan, just like this is tied to Charles Carroll Community Center, 97. I mean, I don't know.
It makes sense. If we can tie the state priorities to ours,
Yeah,
I mean, it should be a easy sell.
yeah. I mean, I think that's where I'm kind of coming from. Is what does the county want to achieve, and what are, you know?
Right. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but
That's good.
where we're gonna put in the letter
Yeah.
is what I'm looking at now, because I don't want these others, the highway capacity enhancement projects to be pushed back at all.
Right.
These are the things that we have identified in past years and years and years and need to be done. Keep them near if we're gonna add a paragraph for this, and perhaps we should, because, and the state's already identified as something that needs to be done, if we're gonna use that, maybe put it at the end of this particular section, not at the beginning.
Right.
Because I think that would be a more appropriate place.
Yeah.
That looks at, because that highlights these top three as the top three.
Correct.
You put something in front of there, and then, is that the top three
Yeah.
anymore? I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. If we've been driving our priorities, do not lessen our priorities.
Right.
But if we're recognizing a new requirement, and we're adjusting the letter to tie it to our county priorities, like this project, you know?
Right, and state the reasons that this is, first the state said that we needed these additional lanes, and my guess is safety is the main reason that the turn lane and the deceleration lane, and similar to what we did with the light,
At Gillis.
yeah, the Gillis. And we got some action on that for safety kind of thing, and it's put it in the same, context as that. This is a safety issue. We're putting our own funds in, $4.5 million, whatever it is, into this project. We need these enhancements to 97 to make this a safe community center. Something like that, but not in front of the first three projects.
Correct.
Okay, we'll put some language together when we are done here today, and we'll work with Roberta to make sure it's appropriately placed in the letter.
Okay.
Are there other county projects that we've identified as priorities where we need the state, where they lie on the state highway? Or, I don't know, I'm asking a question. I know the Freedom Plan, one, is a good example that can be put
Yeah,
into
right.
this as well.
Economic development
Well,
areas.
anything, I mean, we've allocated money.
Most of those have been addressed, I think,
Okay.
pretty well.
I can't think of any off the
Yeah.
top of my
No,
head,
I
but it's a
think-
good thought. We
Okay.
could, can you think of any?
No, we typically do address that with our main
Yeah.
projects in the letter, what
Right.
economic development opportunities have happened recently,
Yeah.
things
Okay.
like that to
Okay,
enhance the prioritization of that.
yeah,
Right.
exactly. Okay.
It's not on the state road.
What's that?
That-
Yeah, I mean, that's all. I don't want to, definitely don't want to lessen our priorities, But I think we need to address this, even though it's not considered a breakout project or something that they're really focusing their attention on. But if we're focusing a lot of money in our budget to making Carroll Community Center a reality, this has to be done. And we need the state to know that this needs to be done. So, that's all.
It does.
Okay, so we'll make that adjustment. Would you want us to come back again, Roberta, and the commissioners to come back again?
Do we have time?
Well, we'd like to get the letter, so as Mike Fowler said, we do this, a lot of other jurisdictions, it's all over the board, whether they get it signed and supported by their delegation or not. We have always in the past had delegation support with regards to this letter, and we are very proud to say we've always pretty much had a full signature block with regards to that. So given that session only has a few more weeks, we would like to get this letter to Mr. Fowler sooner rather than later, if you're in agreement to have him get the delegation while he's in Annapolis to sign off on
Sure.
it and send it. So I guess the question is, would you want us to insert the language and work with the county administrator for that, and then be able to give this to Mr. Fowler to have the delegation sign, or would you like us to come back again?
Well, I don't think you have to come back before us, but if you work the county administrator, always a task. But, and then.
Easy now.
And then, give us a copy of the letters.
Yes.
We'll look at it. We don't have to do it in open
Okay.
session. If that's the only change, we could sign
Okay.
it, sign off on it, and then send it down with Mike
Okay.
Fowler. At that
All
point,
right.
that way, it's no more expedient that
Good
way.
explanation on details, on the priorities, I think would be all we need to do with this to move it forward.
Okay. And I don't think we need to go through this. I mean, you know the projects. This is the 2032 project. This is from just south of Maryland 26 down to the Howard County line. The idea with this particular project for dualization is to meet up with the larger scope, which is the entire dualization from 32 at 108 all the way to 26 to have easy access to I-70. That's the goal for both projects in Howard County and in Carroll County. So this just meets up with Howard County and regional priorities. Again, as we just discussed, Maryland 97, the current scope of the project is from 140 up to Bachman's Valley. The current project is the interchange at Maryland 97 at Meadow Branch that the county has cooperatively worked with State Highway Administration on. New this year to this particular portion is making sure that we really do look at bringing this all the way down to 140 to have that dualization and access. Again, Maryland 26, from the bridge at the reservoir to 32. Again, this is a major commercial corridor for the region, and having improvements to this area is greatly needed.
And that includes sidewalks.
Yes.
I apologize, and there's also from the meeting we had with State Highway the other day, there are breakouts within that.
Yes.
That they're looking at accomplishing.
Yes.
Okay,
Absolutely.
good.
And then the two urban reconstruct Main Street projects, Maryland 31, which is the new Windsor Main Street, and 851 in Sykesville. And
Just
again,
let you know, we have, are you attending the meeting?
yes, I am going to attend the meeting
It's
on Monday.
Monday.
Yes.
And Senator Hester's also gonna be there, Mayor Shaw, myself, Jeff, who else? There are a bunch, but,
I think they're also, the state's bringing a hydrogeologist.
Yes.
that's right.
That's
The
correct.
state's bringing a strong team,
Few
again,
people,
to focus on 851. So-
Yes, for the drainage
Yep,
issues
good
and
stuff.
that project. So again, the New Windsor project, this is Maryland 31, New Windsor Road, again, improvements there.
Do the improvements on that streetscape include some type of bike lane? Because going through there, it is,
Don't believe it does.
I didn't think it did either,
include
because you don't have the
that,
right of ways
yeah.
and so forth.
Well, yeah, there's maybe not
It's
enough
not a lot
room.
of room
Yeah,
there.
that's what I'm thinking,
And it would
but-
cause shutting a lane down, so no, there's no sidewalk.
The sidewalk's good.
improvements.
That's
So we're
good.
starting with that, which would be really great too, I think, with the addition of Springdale Prep. I think anything to have this community more walkable
Yes.
and safer would be a huge benefit there.
Definitely.
I agree. Sidewalks very important
accessibility.
along that.
I don't think it's a bike
stretch.
lane.
That is my district, and I did door-to-door in that community, and the sidewalks are atrocious. I heard a lot of complaints from the citizens there, so I'd love to see that happen.
And that's only, just to be clear, only on the 851 portion, not on the town streets. So this is just
No.
for the state
No.
portion.
Not 851.
I'm sorry, Maryland,
31.
correct, Maryland 31, not for
Right.
the,
Right.
not the town roads,
And they
just
get a
the
lot of
main.
runoff from the roads into their yards as well, so this is badly needed.
Yes. And then, I'm sorry, the Maryland 851, Sykesville Main
Right.
Street and Springfield Avenue. And again, here's the extent of that project, down to the Howard County line.
Okay.
So those are the priorities. We will go ahead and make those adjustments and work through the county administrator to correct that language. And we will get that to Mr. Fowler so we can have the delegation sign off on it as well.
Okay.
I move the County Board of Commissioners approve the letter as amended and forward to the delegation for their signatures and submit to MDOT.
You have a
Second.
second? Okay, discussion.
I'd just like to see the amended letter first. I mean, we can see it.
We'll have to sign it.
Do we have to, do we have to approve it open session? If we see it, can we just sign it? If we agree to it?
We've traditionally approved it in open session.
Because I like to, as amended, but we haven't seen the amendment.
So
That's my question with that.
the threat is time.
Right.
Is
Correct.
associated, but if we make this with the changes, with the intent of signing it in open session next week, will that give us enough time to get through it?
Could we do it today? I think if you guys can
Yeah.
work with Chris Weinberg.
If you
and-
can-
and get
Oh,
the
yeah, we could get it back
adjustments
before the
made.
end of the
Absolutely.
We're here
session.
for
That'd be
another
great.
hour,
Well,
probably.
and then my
That'd be great.
motion to be
Like a couple
amended and brought
hours,
back
let's get
next
it
week.
done.
We'll
she's gonna
talk
do it today.
slowly.
Yes,
do it
okay.
today.
Take your time.
So, okay,
Okay.
so now, the intent is you will accomplish this today, we will approve it in open session today, right? That's
Okay.
where we're coming from?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so you're
I
gonna bring
amend
it
my
back
motion to
today?
read that if amended today, that we send it to Annapolis to.
Let's wait till it
forward
comes
to
back.
the Delegation.
Let's wait till it comes
Yeah.
back and we'll look at it.
Yeah.
Okay?
I guess the question then is, does even a motion need to be done? I mean, I think
No.
this is just pure discussion.
No, not yet.
The intent is come back to
I
us.
withdraw that.
Present it, and then
Yes.
we will
Right.
make that
Correct.
decision.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll be back hopefully within the hour.
All right.
We'll do our best.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Don't rush or anything, but within the hour.
By the way, great job.
Thank you.
Don't rush, you have 10 minutes.
Don't put no pressure on them.
Okay,
Okay.
next, item 3.
So it's smooth so
Request
far.
approval to submit grant application and accept grant award for Macro Circuit Court Family Law Administration. Carroll County Circuit Court Judge Fred Hecker and Ted Zaleski. Where's Ted? He ain't coming?
Or
No.
Fred.
Where's the
Neither one
judge?
here.
The
Oh, attending.
directors are always listed.
Got it, okay, I apologize. I'm attending Nathan Hoyle. Got it, yes.
Commissioner. So is this your
Okay.
first time doing
It
this?
is the first time doing this. I need Roberta in here telling me, okay, puppet string, do this now.
Well,
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I'm joined today with Nathan Hoyle, who's the Deputy Family Law Administrator of the Circuit Court, and we're here today about the FY 2020 Macros Conflict Resolution Projects Grant Application and Acceptance of Award. The total request is $111,247.11. As you can see on the briefing paper, that no county match is required.
Good thing.
So if you have any specific questions about the program, Nathan is here to address those.
Do you have anything you want to say about it?
I can tell you a little bit about the conflict resolution grant program. We have a number of different things that go under that grant. The first and probably the largest chunk of that grant is our ADR practitioner. That's Alternative Dispute Resolution Practitioner. He is a attorney that's available and trained mediator to do same-day facilitations and scheduling, or not scheduling conferences, settlement conferences. Basically, as the bench and magistrates request, pretty much every day that court is available, that court's in session, he's being called to different courtrooms, different cases, to work with the litigants, to help them out, especially when they are unrepresented, and to help them to work out these cases before it has to go before the court.
What's the term of this grant?
This is a 1 year.
1 year.
Yeah.
If it doesn't get funded an additional year, what will you do?
Unfortunately, that would mean we would lose our ADR practitioner program. We would lose some of the other training funds that we're looking at this, and we wouldn't be able to start some of the programs that we wanted to do involving the limited scope representation for parenting plans, which is something that we're hoping to start next year.
It's a great point, because we're relying on a position because of a grant, and those practices and processes are put in place over the year, and all of a sudden that grant doesn't occur. Are we going to be asked to incur the cost?
No, both the ADR practitioner is a grant-funded position, so it is contingent on that grant being there. Our current ADR practitioner, Mr. Biggs, is like a lot of the people in family law administration, a contingent employee, and without that grant, that employment no longer exists.
Okay.
But this is not a new it's a new requirement. Again, the concern is this going to be a new position of a capability, or is this not? Is this
Well,
an
it's
ongoing-
contingent
The
positions,
ADR practitioner
so-
is one that we've created in past years using the same grant that we have to apply for year to year. There are new parts to this,
Yeah.
but those are not, those are also contingent upon the grants being there in order to do. to
Right,
keep
these
those programs alive.
positions are only there if the grant comes through.
Exactly.
Because that's what contingent positions
Yes.
are, which I got as Ted here, he gave me a good lecture on this the other day, so I have a better understanding now. But contingent positions, grant goes away, there's no position.
Yeah.
We're good with that, okay. All right, then I'll make a motion that the Board of Commissioners approve the submission of the FY20 Marcos Conflict Resolution Projects Grant Application and acceptance of the award.
A second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I thank the board for your time.
That was easy.
That was easy. Item 4, question approval to submit grant application and accept grant award for FY 2020 Maryland Criminal Intelligence Network Program. How you doing, sir?
Morning, Commissioners. Nice to see all
Morning,
of you.
sir.
Hopefully this will be as easy as your last one. Did you want to give the background first? So, Commissioners, this is the Maryland Criminal Information Network. It's our second year in pursuing this grant. By way of background, because I know some of you are new that weren't here when we approved this before, but essentially, this is something really special that we've been given the opportunity for Carroll County to be a part of. The Maryland Criminal Information Network is made up of sites all over the state. We have about 8 or 9 sites now. And it's essentially the governor's project to connect through data all of the different locations so that we could share data among jurisdictions, because as we all know, we don't make the opium here. It comes from all over. And it really helps us when we get people that are selling here to know how they fit into the bigger picture so we could dismantle certain criminal networks that are operating in other jurisdictions. I had the good fortune of the governor appointing me to be chair of his gang council and criminal network council. As part of that, we were only one of three jurisdictions to receive the software, several $100,000 software for nothing from High Intensity Drug Trafficking Administration that will allow us to analyze all of this data. Baltimore City and Anne Arundel County received this ability. Our state's attorneys all received the ability to do this. Obviously, it is not because we are a high crime area. We have the lowest crime rate in the state. But what we do have is a lot of end users of the illegal activity that happens. We have a lot of people that are using and they're dying from that. What this is essentially is a program that we've been able to reach memorandums of understanding with a lot of agencies like Department of Public Safety to get jail phone call records, different local law enforcement agencies we're going to be in memorandums of understanding to work with jointly. But we will be identifying and targeting criminal networks that are distributing drugs and committing violence. That is the entire focus of this. And as we've come to know, a lot of times we might only see a part of that operating here, with the rest of that is operating elsewhere. The success has been really great in other jurisdictions that have implemented this. Last year, we originally got this grant from the governor's office, and I came here and was asked, is this something going to continue? And as I told you then, I'll tell you now, it is very much an initiative the governor is supporting. I expect this grant will continue. It is developing around the state, and we're having the good fortune of being a leader on this. I think we're going to see some really strong results, but we are in the process still of building it. We got this grant later in the year by the time we could get positions and all that organized. But I anticipate we'll get this grant again. Obviously, we have to put in, but I've had pretty regular conversations with the governor's office in terms of what we're doing and how we're progressing. Everything had been approved previously. You'll see the senior assistant state attorney and the crime analyst. This board, the previous board had actually approved that, so that's just what was already going forward, no change there. What we are adding this time is what is a CAP data analyst, and so you understand what that is. Put it in layman's terms, essentially when law enforcement sheriff's office gets phones, either from those that have overdosed or suspects and search warrants we can access, we will download all of the data, the contacts. That goes into a system which is, again, analyzed by the program. And how that works is, let's say we have 8 different people that overdose, and they're unrelated as far as we can tell, but when we upload all that information and we analyze, we find that all of them were calling the same number an hour to 2 hours prior to their overdose. Guess what we've discovered? We've discovered someone that's very likely going to be a dealer. And so that's what this will do. And so this analyst will essentially help upload that data all into a system that can be accessed statewide. So I'm very excited program. I'm always very honored that the governor's office supports our initiative on this. So the county contribution you will see is, and I think you pointed out, it's grant. This one's grant contingent, but there is a percentage that grants don't cover, whether it's like partial benefits. I think I'm saying that correctly, right?
That's right. So per GOCCP's mandate, they will only cover 30% of what the salary request is, and that's just across the board. So that's the number that you're seeing there.
Can we accept this grant without doing this new position right now?
Can we do what?
Can we take the grant without putting a new position in right now? Because we're getting to the budget session, and that's when we normally look at new positions and new funding and stuff like that. So that's I all for this, I'm all behind it, but this kind of takes out a step of how we normally do the things, especially with a new position. And we can say it's only $20,000 from the county, but it is $20,000 from the county in an extremely tight budget season. I mean, so is it possible to do everything else except look at that new position at this point and then put that into the budget?
Unfortunately, Commissioner, and I think we've talked about that. I know we've had this several times where the grant process doesn't unfortunately align with the budget session. And it's always a constant problem, and I get that. I mean, obviously, I would prefer to be able to say it as a budget piece. The reality is, I would say no. I mean, this is a really integral part as we move forward. We got to have the data inputted. We got to have this project, right. And so, I mean, I guess we could submit it and then reject it, but I don't think that would be a really smart idea for us to do that with the governor's office. I mean, I can't imagine the position all of you are in and having to sort through all the demands. I said I never would want your job.
Thanks a lot.
I can only speak for us and the opiate issue, and I mean, again, I don't think there's the bang that we're getting from the buck with an extra 20,000. I can't imagine not moving on this grant. I mean, the governor's office is committing hundreds of thousands of dollars they're giving our county to address this. I mean, I think we have to kick in something on that.
How are the,
This is the number one priority we as a collective society are facing. I think it's imperative that we do include it and move forward with it.
let me ask something. We had $300,000 set aside for some of these type things. Could this come out of that money in the future?
Possibly. I mean, the money is all designated.
This year's all, it's totally dedicated?
Well, this is for next year.
For next year,
This is
yeah,
for
I mean.
2020, but it is currently for FY19 all designated, and I believe those programs continue, and most, if not all. It's possible. I mean, we have to look at the numbers, but it's possible that there might be
Yeah.
10 or 15 of it.
You know, we're facing a really tight budget coming up, and I agree with Commissioner Frazier. We have to look at every penny here in the next year. And your initiative is great. I love what you're doing. I love where it's going. And we do need to keep fighting against the opioid crisis and what you're doing. And you've done a great job here as Assistant State's Attorney. So, go ahead. Anyway, but what
What a fine job as Commissioner.
we have to find out where the money's coming from, I think, before we can approve this, and we really have to see.
Well, we're on a tight budget. I mean, again, as commissioners, you have to make those decisions. We can't really submit a package without a plan to the governor's office. If I have to go back and simply tell them that we're not in a place to do this, then they're going to have to make a decision based on the fact that we don't have an analyst. So I don't, I hear what you're saying, but I mean, that's kind of the position we're in. I think it's due next week.
It's due March 29th, so that's next Friday.
Yeah, and.
That answered that
Thanks a
question.
lot.
And between when it comes out and when we have to do it, it's very quick. And if you recall, I know not all of you were here, but that was the reason when I came in last time, I really pointed out that this was a project that I expected would be here. There is obviously a potential for $20,000 in the county for next year. But that is essentially to help really continue to blossom with this program. We can't, I mean, we have 5 years of phone data we got to go back and get uploaded into systems. It's a project, and it may be, in all candor, it may be after next year, this position might not be needed if we can find an ongoing resource. But we got to go back and get old data to put back in the system, because it's not in the system, because this is all something new that we're trying to do.
I appreciate those comments, but you're kind of answering the question that I'm having is this a long-term intent where it will be budgeted for the following year? Now, I think the answer is going to be yes, but you just said that this may go away, and I'm like, well, now if it's going to go away, my concerns, are there other resources to do this type of analysis? And, this is my experience. This is what I used to do.
Right.
And
Well,
with that said, I really do appreciate the intent of this position for all the right reasons, and to take down this nefarious, system. So I'm all for the work done. The big challenge that is being discussed now is, do we have the funds? And if we do, fine. If not, where's the risk in taking the funds from one place to another? So-
Can you allocate anywhere in your budget to, that your existing?
I don't have $20,000 within my budget unless I cut somebody's pay.
I mean, you have a great budget analyst there with
I
a great
do.
mind. I'm sure she could.
And she makes sure that we spend, every dime it goes to where it's supposed to go. No, I mean, I can only say, as commissioners, you know, you obviously have to make those calls. I don't know what else. I mean, I know that we spend in our office an enormous amount of time getting grant money
Right.
to defray the cost onto the county. I sit on this council, I go down and I deal with the governor to get us money in the county. Obviously, I can't get them to give us every dollar. There's gonna be $20,000 on this, we're gonna have to bite. Again, that's
Right.
your call.
But this
You can
could-
decide whether to fund that.
This is as most grants are, year-to-year grant, and you're
Mhm.
possibly, this is one time or one-year position, possibly.
Well,
So
and
I
I
would
didn't really
become-
get a chance to answer
Right,
that.
I would be comfortable with maybe looking at taking this out of one-time money right now, and then looking ahead to trying to put it in a budget for the future, if it
Right.
was necessary,
Right,
because
that's-
I'd be more
that's
comfortable
Right.
with that than trying to have
Do we
the
have
ongoing
one-time money
money.
to put into there now?
Well, that's a question that we need somebody to answer.
I think Roberta said she brought her checkbook.
I did. And,
So I agree with that approach.
so we can have budget look into it. Unfortunately, I think your suggestion of possibly using some of that $300,000 from the Naughton Carroll money that is ongoing, if it's not already allocated.
I thought we had some left in that. It was,
Well, again, this is next year.
Yeah.
And I know Ed and the senior opioid policy group have been working to, you know, there were some things they did sort of one time since it was ramping up this year, and then there were things they were looking to do on a more ongoing basis. And my sense is that the whole 300,000 is spent, but unfortunately, a couple of key people that we would need to answer the question are not readily at my fingertips, and so I don't think we have a good answer to where we'd get this money at the moment. So,
So,
if
there's
this
a
needs
possibility
to-
we don't have $20,000 in one-time money left to put this in.
Well, again, this is for next
Yeah,
year.
I know, but-
So.
but we've been using a little bit here, a
Yeah,
little bit
I
there.
know,
After
that's
a
why
while,
I
it's
don't know.
a couple $100,000. After a while, it's $1 million, and we get,
Yeah. So,
Well, I could
Instead
tell
of
you,
coming up to
Commissioner,
answer
you
a question.
certainly can put in the application,
Mhm.
sort out those details. By the time we come back, you would still have to accept the application. As far as the 1 year, because I don't want to lose
Please.
that question, the reason I'm saying that is it may be a 1 year position in our office. Ultimately, one of the problems where we have to get this is there
Right.
is historical data that we've got to go back and get uploaded, and you can't do that with existing
Right.
resources. Ongoing, it may be much easier to either find someone else that can adopt that or ask a different agency to,
Right.
to seek that.
Right, and so there could be a plan to regionalize this approach and use another agency.
Right, I mean,
to bring it funds.
and I'm always mindful of that. I mean, I
Right.
think for those that have been on
I
the board,
agree.
I mean, I don't come over here and try to ask for a lot of things. There's not a bigger issue. I mean, it's just not. And I recognize the costs. I try to look for the grants that we can to minimize that cost, but,
I think we have an answer, maybe.
yeah, so as it stands at the moment, we believe there's, for FY '19, 22,000 that has not been spent of the 300,000 in the Naughton Carroll program that we put toward. And so there is a possibility of encumbering that to next year. There's also still time, because you haven't done your 2020 budget, to allocate, not give the full 300,000 to that program as it stands at the moment, and give $20,592 to this. Does that make sense?
It does, but no, don't want to do that.
I mean,
the
My
of
opinion.
the
first
Just my opinion,
300,
but I don't wanna do
I mean,
that
it's still
that way.
all
But-
for
Right.
opioids. It
But the
just-
first course, you said, if we do have that, that's great, because, you know, I shared, this is the number one priority, and there is no doubt. And the hard questions are not about the value of the,
Oh, I get
of the
that.
position, and again, from my experience, I understand exactly what this is. It needs to be done, and, so I applaud you coming here and understanding that it is such a difficult one, because we're watching our pennies right now, but
No,
it
sure.
is absolutely our number one priority.
We could move that money forward to next year's budget.
So we could take the money from the Not in Carroll initiative at 2019, is that correct?
It's a 2020 budget for
Okay.
this, the 20,000.
Yes, we're looking at the smart people in the back.
They're discussing it.
Too many people talking in Deb's ear. The question was just to confirm what I said, that they could in fact take the 22,000 that's left from the Not in Carroll. And oh, more information coming.
That's all right.
Okay, I'm
Thanks.
just finding out that there isn't 22, there's 7 remaining.
So close and yet so
I'm
far.
rewriting this motion 3 times so far.
Okay.
Okay.
So really, there's.
So can we take it from one-time money? Do we have one-time money this year that we can use, this
$20,000.
$20,592?
Well, how we would have to do it is take some of our unassigned fund balance and assign it to.
But we do have that we can
We
use.
do have the flexibility. When it comes to the
Okay.
budget process, you have $4 million that you'll be able
Okay.
to assign, you know,
Okay.
if you choose to do so. Okay?
And I promise we will try to save on paper.
Now,
That helps at
Don't make
all.
promises.
you did return 300,000 a couple
Yeah,
years
and
ago.
I didn't
I
mention
knew
that
that was
yet.
going to come up soon.
I didn't
so-
mention that yet, but it is a good point, since Commissioner Reba, for those that were on the board, is that one of the first things I did when I came in was actually move child support
That's
over to
right.
the state, because we were having to pay over $300,000 a year that we didn't have to. And that actually was a straight line operating every year, $300,000. So when I do put that in context, when I come in and ask to now spend that on opiates.
Right.
like-
Do we have a motion?
So he has.
That's long forgotten.
Right, no, you mention it every year.
I did, I tried.
It's also
Actually, I was
probably
gonna
been,
put it on
All
my
right.
business card.
it's probably also been spent like 7 times.
I know.
That's okay.
I'll move the
Okay.
board,
Move, go ahead.
Commissioners approve the submission of the additional county funding required for the FY 2020 Maryland Criminal Intelligence Network grant application acceptance of award.
Second.
Can I make an amendment to that motion, that the money comes from unassigned fund balance?
Okay, is that okay to do it that way? Okay. Any other
Second on
discussion?
that.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Great work, I appreciate it.
All right, thank you all
Thank
very
you.
much,
Sure.
Commissioner.
We have to vote on the amendment and the motion.
Thank you very much, Brian.
We know what we did, more or less.
She knows what we did.
Yeah.
I don't know what that.
And budget knows what you did.
Okay.
Okay, item 5. We got Jeff coming up for, talk about 2019 Community Interest Needs Assessment Survey.
Like it, this is discussion only, no money involved. Let's go.
No, that's good.
Yes, no money and no motion involved for this.
Right.
Go to slideshow.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right, good morning, Commissioners. What I have to share with you this morning is we do a needs assessment survey every 5 years, and this is to help us with our capital budget, but then also with our programming. And we thought the timing would be really good because we're actually getting ready to start our the following year, FY21 budget process. It actually takes a year before it comes to you as part of the overall CIP. So why do we do this? Again, part of the budget process, also to evaluate our programming. We collect input from a number of places. We get it from this survey. We get it from our volunteer recreation councils. We also get it from staff who interact with the public throughout the year. How do we do it? We had 2 surveys this year. The last time we did it, we did a random survey only. The random survey is sent out to 1% of the county's households. We access the information from the county tax records, and we set a goal of trying to get a 20% response rate from that. We'll send out a letter with a link. The survey's done online. We mail out hard copies if they'd like a hard copy, and then there's generally repeated phone calls to go back to try to get close to that 20%. We ended up short of that 20% this time. We got about 16% back. But this time we also did a public survey where we advertised it on our website, through our Facebook page. Recreation councils distributed through their mailing lists. We got a tremendous response there. We had over 1,100 responses there. Now it's interesting because we have different groups that tend to show up in some of these surveys. When you put it out through our website, through our rec councils, I made the joke before about the preacher surveying the choir. these are folks who are kind of plugged into our programs. Generally, their responses are going to reflect some of that. The 1%, the random 1% of county households, that tends to be more of the random taxpayer. They may not have ever participated in one of our programs or visited one of our parks. I think it's valuable to get both perspectives. And it's also interesting as we go through the survey, some of the results you could lay on top of each other and they look exactly the same. Others are pretty dramatically different, and I will point those out to you as we go through this. As far as the capital budget, that was the first area we looked at. Areas of existing parks that are used the most. You see the public survey, walking trail, athletic field, playground, wildlife viewing, and picnic pavilions. The random survey, walking trail again was at the top. In fact, it was more than 2 to 1 preferred over everything else. A lot of overlap, a little bit of shuffling of what the priorities were. One of the things that I find very interesting, and this is a recurring theme throughout the survey, many of these are passive recreation activities. We're seeing a general shift to that. That's consistent with the shifting demographics of our county. So, as I said, that's a recurring theme that we will see.
Say that one more time, they're passive?
Passive recreation. Athletic fields would be more active when you see athletic fields,
fishing
gymnasiums.
is passive?
I'm sorry?
Fishing is passive?
Depends how big of a fish you catch.
Well, that's true. Some of the ones at Piney Run, I don't know if that's passive or not.
I mean, define passive recreational activities.
Quieter, a little bit more low-key. It's not high impact. It's not high stress. So walking on trails.
Is passive? Oh, okay. Okay, if that's how you define.
We would view it
how
as
you're
more
defining
passive.
it.
Now,
Okay.
granted, you could use that same trail to run
For
on.
running and jogging, okay.
The way I fish, it's very passive.
Yeah, you don't catch nothing.
Peace and quiet.
Start putting bait on that one.
We asked people what the most important criteria was when they use a park. Coming in at the top was that they are well-maintained. So publicly, we'd like to thank the Bureau of Facilities for all the work that they do maintaining the parks and for our own park maintenance staff at the major facilities. Also, people want to feel safe and they want it to be in a convenient location close to home. When we asked people which parks they had visited during the past year, the one that came in at the top was Westminster Community Pond. Not surprising. A lot of people go in there, even if only for a short period of time. They go in multiple times per week, and very popular park. Things that kept people from using our parks. They don't know the locations. That comes back on us. We need to do a better job of marketing. Too far from where they live. That may be a case of where we have our parks located, and we'll talk about that in a little bit more as well. And the other one we have no control over is they don't have enough time to go to our parks. We asked them what their top priorities were in terms of spending. For money in the capital budget, for every $100, where do you think it should go? The average came out to $38 for fixing and repairing old parks, $33 for developing new trails, and $29 to develop new indoor recreational facilities. And we asked what additional or new facilities are needed. We've listed the top 10, but we've showed you all of the responses here. I had to chuckle when I saw it at first, the restroom facilities. I'm thinking Soccer Moms United have come out and they have taken a stand on this. And it's something that we really don't have.
Spotted pots are not restroom facilities, right?
Spotted pots are, that's not what they are considering restroom facilities. They're looking for flush toilets. And that's challenging for us for a couple of reasons. One, they're a lot more expensive to build and to install, but then also it's the maintenance of them and the access. We do not have part-time staff like some other counties who line ball fields and oversee the games that they occur, unlock and lock bathrooms and clean them. So that all falls back on volunteers. And again, we have very few parks that do have flush toilets. Typically, it's the major park facilities like Piney Run or Oshawa. Freedom Park is an exception to that. Trails showed up twice, both in natural surface and hard surface trails. Artificial turf field showed up high, and this is one of those areas where it scored differently with the different surveys. The rec councils, the public survey, they scored it 41%. It showed up pretty high. The random survey, the taxpayer survey, showed up much lower, only 15%. So if you don't have children in those programs or you're not using that field yourself, it's not as much of a priority. Indoor walking and track facility, that was about middle of the pack of the top 10. And again, I had to chuckle a little bit because we put this survey out at a stretch when we had that 5-degree, 10-degree weather. And I'm thinking this would be a nice diversion from walking at the mall or whatever place. But I also think that people interpreted that as more of a recreational facility and not a competitive facility. When they saw indoor track, here's someplace I can walk indoors. It wasn't necessarily here's someplace that can hold track meets. So that maybe comes back on us as far as how we define that. Facility certainly could be designed to accommodate both of those functions, but I think that was an interpretation issue. Something that came out of the blue that we've never really had significant input for before was indoor aquatic facility. That was in about just below the middle of the top 10. Again, athletic fields scoring higher with the rec councils, lower with the general public. Water trails, it's the first time that showed up, and that's something that we've been working on, trying to develop some canoe and kayak launch areas.
What's a trail, what's a water trail mean?
Water trail basically means you've got different points that you can put in and take out a canoe or a kayak. So just like a walking trail would have a start and a finish, water trail, you can put it in at one location and go down to a next
And
location.
then come out and do somewhere else. Okay.
Exactly.
That is
I've
my
never heard the
favorite
term
one of
before.
them all.
Duly noted. And then making the top 10 as well as dog parks.
Zip lines?
And zip lines are in there, yes.
I was pushing them a few years ago.
Top 10 needs to support through the CIP. This is similar to the last question, but now this is looking at it, should we spend public money, county money, grant money to accomplish these things? Again, restrooms at the top. You've got some of the same facilities showing up once again. One thing I will note on this, dog park shows up in this. This would be the first time we've asked the public, do you think public money should be spent for it? So, and that's something that we've not done in the past. We've made the groups raise the money themselves. So I thought that was interesting that it had climbed up into the top 10. Top land acquisition priorities, lands in areas that are underserved. If you can visualize a map of the county and you look at Littlestown Pike going to the north and Middleburg Road to the west, there is no county recreational facility in that quadrant. We're very well represented through the rest of the county, but we do not have any in that area. Now, there's a couple reasons for that. Some, we've worked with the city of Tawnytown, and there are facilities there that we've jointly funded. And there's also a lot of ag preservation in that area, and there's not as much population in that area as you would see, say, in Eldersburg or other sections. Land for a new recreational facility, indoor facility, and then land to develop new community parks. When we asked them how should parkland acquisition and development be funded, their recommendation was basically to continue the practice that we do right now. Use program open space, use the impact fees, but also use general fund dollars as well. We had a period in the past where general fund dollars were not included very much within that capital budget. I think we paid a price for that in terms of being able to complete some projects, and then also now as we look to try to maintain our infrastructure, I think you need that third leg to the stool.
Are you using impact fees presently?
Yes, we do, but they have to be related to growth. So if we use impact fees for a project, we couldn't use that to renovate something or maintain existing structure. It has to be to address new growth.
Just, you have an idea how much that is a year you get from?
Not off the top of my head,
Okay,
no.
I'm sorry, it's an unfair question at this
That's all
point,
right.
but I'm just thinking. Okay.
What should we be focusing on for the next 5 years? Enhancing amenities at existing parks, develop additional trails, that's going to be a recurring theme, and then acquire additional parkland. You may recall out of the Long-Term Advisory Council, there was the suggestion or the need for a community event center. So we asked, is there a need? The public survey, 80% scored yes. The random one, the taxpayer survey, a little bit lower, but still a majority said yes. When looking at the focus of the facility, the top 3 answers were having a mix of local and out-of-county use, primarily serve Carroll County residents, and then third was tournaments and different events that would promote tourism. When we looked at what amenities should be included if an event center was built, again, not a surprise, the public survey, the rec councils weighed in and said you ought to have multiple turf fields. The random survey, that scored a little bit lower, but aquatics or swimming and indoor track showed up in both. 90% of the people who responded favored a public-private partnership as a way to pay for this facility. As far as operating costs, 86% favored some use of fees, but then also a level of subsidy to help make it more affordable for county residents. The random survey, it was a higher number that said, no, it should be user fees only. 21% of the people said only user fees to support it. One of the challenges, and it wasn't a direct question, but when you look at this, if you're using private money to build and operate something, there's going to be an expectation that they generate that money back. When you start talking about subsidies to make it affordable, it then becomes harder for them to make that money back. So it's not a reason it can't be done, but it's one of those challenges that needs to be considered. A priority for an event center versus other recreation and parks projects, 72% favored funding it, but only in addition to the existing projects in the CIP. 12% did not favor funding this type of project. And one of the more interesting slides, I thought, was the priority versus non-recreational parks projects. So if you're comparing this event center versus roads, libraries, schools, other functions, where would you rate it on a 1 to 10? 40% scored it right in the middle, a 5, 6, or a 7. 29% scored it at the bottom, 27% scored it at the top. Long story short, those scores are all over the place as far as where people think that falls in terms of a priority. We had some questions about programming. Quality of our programs, the majority were rated as excellent or good. We had higher scores where the programs were staff operated. Now these tend to be the ones in our program guides. They also tend to be instructors who are paid. Many have had lots of years of training to be instructors. The Rec Council program scored a little bit lower. They are typically run by volunteers. Many, this may be the first time they've ever run a program in their life. So they're learning as they go. They do a great job. They are probably our greatest asset as a department. But also in terms of experience, you can see why there's a little bit of a difference there. Factors that may prevent participation: not enough time, they don't know which programs are offered, and third most common response was there aren't any obstacles, they're already participating.
Is that indoor archery?
Yes, it is.
Sorry.
We do that over in our building in the Robert Moten Center. Always knock before you.
I love that sign on that door.
When we asked which programs were needed, we've got a long list here, and I won't go through all of them, but the thing I will point out is, again, I think it's interesting, the top 5 scores are all more passive activities rather than youth sports or very active programs. One of our newer initiatives is we developed a new line of programming called EPIC programming, experienced people in Carroll. Again, changing demographics. We know there's a growing 50 and older population. Many of them do not want to sign up for a program that has the word senior in the name. So we're remarketing them. We asked what the most requested types of programs were and got some good feedback there. Those are things that we'll look to try to develop and try them as new programs as we expand our offerings. General feedback, asking people about quality of life, how important is it to them? 95% said it's very important. We had a very strong response that they believe Recreation and Parks provides increased connectedness to the community, improved health and well-being, and play an important role in the quality of life. So when you look at the strongly agree or the somewhat agree, you're looking close to 90% in each of those categories, which we were pleased with. Parks within a 10 to 15 minute walk. We knew this would be challenging. we don't have the best system of sidewalks within the county. Every opportunity we have to try to make parks more easily connected by walking or biking, we're trying to do that. I believe if we would have asked this question 5 or 10 years ago, if it wouldn't have been 0, it would have been darn close to 0. We now have some trail connections to Westminster Community Pond, Cape Horn Park, and other sites, and that number's starting to creep up, so we're happy with that. How do you travel to a park? Now, the first thing you'll notice here is, no, these do not add up to 100%, so I did see that, but we allowed people the option to check more than one, if you sometimes drive or sometimes walk. You know, again, seeing that 14% of the people now walk to parks, that number would have been much lower a few years ago. How do people learn about the activities? Top 4, word of mouth, social media, program guide that's emailed out to them, or our website. The one thing that stands out to me in there is none of those involve paper, so that's a very positive thing as well.
How do you get the program guide emailed out to you?
If you've participated in our programs before, we have your email address. We automatically send it to you. Or if people would like to join the email list, they can call into our office, and then we'll add them to the list. But we have a pretty extensive list that goes out that way. We also distribute it via email through the public school system.
Those are pretty impressive percentages that sounds like you have a dedicated community that use these services so they know where to go. Social media, the guide, and the website.
A lot of repeat customers.
A lot of repeat customers. That's what that tells me. It's good.
And this was an interesting one as well. As you all know, we charge some higher fees for out-of-county folks. If they're visiting Piney Run Park, if they're using our public shooting range, we have not done that with program fees previously. It's always been the same price across the board. When we asked whether that should be considered, 80% said yes. It's hard to get 80% to agree on anything, but that sent a pretty clear message. Now, of course, none of those responding lived outside of Carroll County. So take that for what it's worth. And finally, and I know I'm going through a lot of information very quickly, but just a quick summary and then some takeaways from the survey. You've probably already figured out the first one. Community desires likely exceed the ability to fund them. We know it's a tight budget year, and that's something we always wrestle with. You ask people what they want, they tell you, and then if you're not able to provide it to them, well, what'd you ask us for? But I think it helps us to know to make those decisions and to prioritize. Definitely an increased demand for passive activities, and that's consistent with the changing demographics. We had some pretty significant differences on a couple of the subjects, the event center, the turf fields, and athletic fields. Depending where you fall, if you're a participant or you have children who are participants, you typically score those higher. There's a need for improved marketing services. That's something that we're going to need to take a look at as staff. Our current practice of maintaining existing infrastructure and then also trying to meet the new needs, that seems to be consistent with what the public is asking for. Significant support for public-private partnership as a way to fund community event center. Strong desire for indoor track and also an aquatic center, and strong support for out-of-county program fees. So where do we go next with all of this information? As I mentioned, we're starting our capital budget process, so this will be a part of that input that we'll be working with our advisory board. We're getting input from here, from our rec councils, and from our staff. Some of that will be developed into capital requests, which then go before our advisory board and ultimately find their way to you. Programming initiatives, those are things, we'll look at the programs that scored high in this survey and look for ways to implement them. And then last, reviewing our marketing efforts and how we can get the word out better. We have good repeat customers, but we have people who don't know all of what we have to offer. So we need to make sure we connect with them as well.
You know, I didn't know you offered dance until
Yes.
a couple weeks ago and things. That granddaughter.
Jeff,
But
Jeff teaches it.
never too late.
Just asking.
But you know, there's a lot of things. I'm fairly aware of what you offer, but not at all. Not all of them, and it's my fault. I mean, I'm not really looking it up, but yeah, I think a marketing effort is always good, no matter what it is. People get complacent; they just don't look, and
One of the things we take a lot of pride in is we don't like being put in a box. Some people hear recreational parks and they think balls and bats and that's it. We've got everything from arts council activities to youth sports, adult sports, non-sports, public shooting range, nature activities. There's really no limit as to what we can do. If people want to see a particular activity, we're happy to consider it. Any other questions?
No, just an appreciation of the work you're doing. Definitely a listen, learn, lead approach. You reach out to listen and you're learning what makes most sense. And next step is, like you said, you're going to lead the effort to developing, the CIP, developing what you want to budget. So a lot of work was put into this, and I really appreciate the feedback.
Could you send this to us electronically?
Absolutely.
I would love to just digest some of it and look at
Sure.
it. It's really interesting.
And I'll be sharing this with our advisory board next week. I think some of you are coming out to
Okay,
the
yeah.
advisory board meeting, so you can already jump ahead and pretend like you knew these things were coming. They'll be very impressed with that.
Okay.
I like seeing a reflection of the demographic change, At 51, I don't run no more, I walk, I kayak. So seeing all this reflecting of what I'm living through, I'm very happy with.
You quit running?
Yes.
Say,
Not-
nice job.
Not for public office.
Not me.
Nice job, very comprehensive.
Thank you.
I liked it.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anything else? Thanks.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Ms. Christina, I think you're up next with requesting approval to accept FY18 Family Self-Sufficiency Program Grant. Ms. Christine Kay and others.
Morning.
Good morning.
Commissioners, you know Danielle Gates, our Bureau Chief for Housing, and I'd like to introduce you to Carol Smith, who is our Family Self-Sufficiency Coordinator.
Morning.
We're requesting approval for our annual FY, this is for 18? I just realized. FY 18 Family Self-Sufficiency Program Grant in the amount of $55,822. This is a voluntary program in the Public Housing Authority that is designed to assist residents who receive a voucher to become more economically self-sufficient by providing supportive services. The total grant request is total grant request, is $68,045. With a $12,223 from our housing administrative funds. Danielle and Carol will give you a little bit more information about the successes we've seen in the program this year.
So good morning, Commissioners. As Christine noted, Family Self-Sufficiency Program is a voluntary program that we offer to every Housing Choice Voucher client. Currently, our program has 33 participants, and we continue to grow every day. The Family Self-Sufficiency Program Coordinator works with participants to create individual goals that focus on each family's needs. Through the community partnerships that our Self-Sufficiency Program Coordinator makes, she is able to link these individuals to services that will assist them in obtaining their goals, which is to become more economically self-sufficient. Our agency has created strong partnerships with other county agencies. We work very closely with Burke, HSP, DSS, the Health Department, United Way, Carroll Community College, Carroll County Youth Service Bureau, Potomac Case Management, and others. Historically, approximately 85% of our participants either attend college or receive a vocational training certificate, and approximately 60% of the FSS participants no longer receive a housing subsidy. We have actually had 24 graduates who have purchased homes. As Christine said, we have been awarded $55,822 this year, which will support one full-time position, which is our Family Self-Sufficiency Program Coordinator. This program requires no county dollars. And now I'd like to turn it over to Carol so she can share some of our information or statistics for this past year.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm happy to share with you some of the accomplishments of the 32 individuals that were in the program in this past year. Regarding employment, by the year's end, all but 3 were employed. After overcoming many obstacles, 1 completed a program to become a certified medical assistant and recently got a full-time job. In 2018, 1 graduated with a bachelor's degree and is currently holding down 1 full-time job and a part-time job. 6 took credit classes at Carroll Community, 6 went through vocational training programs, 1 started her own licensed business. In 2018, there were 2 program graduates. One of them no longer qualifies for housing assistance because she is financially self-sufficient and plans to purchase a home. 1 completed her associate's degree and is transferring to a state university for her bachelor's while she continues to work part-time. Do you have any questions about the program?
Are most of them staying local?
Pardon me?
Are most of them staying local? They,
Yes.
okay. They graduate, they stay local.
Yep.
So we're community helping community.
Yep.
You said 33 participants. Is that a cap? Is that the?
No, it is not a cap. It's anyone who's on the Housing Choice Voucher Program is offered the opportunity. Of course, it maxes poor Carol out with exactly how much she has, but there is no actual cap.
It's voluntary.
Yeah.
We would love to see more people participate,
Yeah.
of course, but like right now it's a voluntary program, so.
Great program.
And it's a 5-year program. So in 2019, we do have 2 people whose contracts expire, but I'm already in the process. I'm meeting with somebody this afternoon who intends to sign up, so it's just a constant, yeah.
How do they get the information on this? I mean, it's voluntary, but if you're in, somewhat in trouble here, you may not have a computer to get online and look at things. How do they get referred, or how does it?
Well, it's only open to voucher holders. So
okay.
when they're in our office, they come in annually, at least annually. They hear about the program. When they actually come off the waiting list to get a voucher and they come in for a briefing, I meet with everybody at that point and kind of introduce the program to them and let them know it's available.
And now, if we would have someone that comes in who is not part of the program, we can still link them to the resources that we have. They just wouldn't be considered an actual participant.
Now, how many on vouchers out of that 33 that actually took advantage of this?
Well, we have 682 vouchers, and we have, at this point, 33 participants.
Good.
682 vouchers, and you have those that are on the waiting list.
We have, right now, over 1,600 families on the waiting list.
You have 1,600 families on the waiting list, 682 on vouchers, and 33 taking advantage of the program that are on vouchers.
Correct.
Wow.
One thing,
Small
a
steps.
huge
It is.
percentage of voucher holders are elderly.
Yes, you have to
or-
remember, about 90% of our voucher holders
Okay.
are either individuals that are over the age of 60 or
Right.
they're individuals with a disability.
So out of that 680, there's a much smaller group that would actually want to take advantage of this program, is what you're saying. So, okay.
The program sounds like it does fantastic work.
Yeah.
It helps out a lot of people. I love the idea of giving someone a hand up. I really do. And then they're self-sufficient on their own, which is kind of the idea of this program. So with that, I'll make the motion that the Board of Commissioners accept the FY18 Family Self-Sufficiency Grant in the amount of $55,822.
We have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Ms. Christine, you get to stay
I get to stay.
because you're going to be talking about requesting approval to submit State Health Assistance Program grant application for grant year 2019, 2020. And you're with Ms. Gina. Okay.
Good morning.
You're up.
Good morning.
So the state health insurance assistance program is a grant that we renew every year. The purpose of the SHIP program is to strengthen the capability of states to support a community-based network of state health insurance programs. The state health insurance program provides personalized counseling, education, and outreach to empower, educate, and assist Medicare-eligible individuals to make informed decisions about health insurance, about their health insurance, and to optimize access to care. The total grant award is $15,246. There is no required county match. And Gina will give you a little bit more information about what we do in that program and about how many people we serve.
Every year in this program, we serve between 1,100 to 1,300 individuals. It's through one-on-one appointments to educate people about Medicare and Medicare prescription drug programs, and Then we also have Medicare Part D open enrollment, which is an extremely busy time in our office. Within that time that it's open, it's usually October 15th through December 7th. We serve about 600 individuals during that time alone. There's community education sessions through Welcome to Medicare sessions that we hold, and shredding events that we hold as well, and some in-service workshops for community partners and staff at the hospital. So it's there's one full-time program coordinator, and we have 8 fantastic volunteers that enable us to serve the total number of people that we're able to.
Does this just help people set up the program, like if they're buying a car, does this help them navigate through the system, how to do it, that type thing?
Did you say, no, it's Medicare insurance.
Oh, okay, Medicare insurance.
Yeah, it's Medicare insurance, so we're helping people to enroll into Medicare.
Oh, sorry, wrong one.
And
I was reading ahead here. Okay.
I'll tell you, I've learned more about grants and the services you guys provide, and we provide as a county. You know, in the very short tenure I've been here, it is amazing. I mean, when you throw numbers out like 1,100, 1,300, those that are, they're in need of Medicare, or in need of services, you're there providing those services, you know, and it's awesome to see just the large magnitude of numbers that are being served by these programs, and obviously your dedication services to doing it, so I appreciate it.
I often thought we should probably put out some time of FYI about how much money we actually get in grants through the county for services and programs like this, because it's a tremendous amount of money that we get through grants to help people throughout the county. And it'd be really interesting to know how much that total.
12 million a year.
I'm thinking it's around 11.5 million a year. Okay.
Roughly 12 million.
Well, let's
That would
put that
make a
out
great
somewhere,
newspaper
because that is a
article.
lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
Some
that's a
people
lot
are
of
around
money.
to do it.
And then, you know, we provide services, but it's not our taxpayer dollars. It's money coming from outside, and that's just tremendous that we do that. And that more people should have that information out, not just the county administrator, but other people should have that information at the fingertips.
You know, absolutely. We do it with the Veterans Advisory Council, you know, with the transportation. We see on the back of that paper
return of-
every month the return on investment, and it's so impressive when I read that, and I try to highlight that to folks. But, you know, Commissioner, you're absolutely right that there's so many services that we're providing, and the return on investment is just massive, I would imagine. And you're right, it would be a great article to continue to share. These are the services that we're doing, so.
Right, how much are in grants and how many people are actually being touched by those grants? Because you don't have that information, do you? I didn't think so. So both those things should be.
It's a lot of people.
It is,
When you
it is,
take
it is
these two
tremendous.
Housing, aging, and, yeah.
That's the qualitative number, a lot.
Right, I know a lot, but it's thousands, let me put it that way.
Okay, any other,
I'll make the motion that the Board of Commissioners approve the State Health Insurance Assistance Program grant submission and acceptance of the award.
any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you, as
ladies.
always. Okay. Next, we have a bid approval, mowing services for Carroll County Farm Museum. Ms. Joanne and Ms. Maureen, I believe, are coming up. Morning, ladies.
Morning, Commissioners.
Okay.
We went out for bid. We solicited bids from qualified contractors to provide all labor, equipment, and materials to provide the mowing services for the Carroll County Farm Museum, which is approximately 70 acres. 5 bids were received. Our first apparent low bidder was Outdoor Lawn and Property Services with an amount of $41,300, and we are asking your concurrence to award this project to Outdoor Lawn and Property Services.
I'll make a motion that we award the contract for the mowing services for Carroll County Farm Museum to Outdoor Lawn and Property Services in the amount of $41,300.
Second.
Any other
Yeah.
further?
How many times do they mow 70 acres?
28 cuts.
28 times.
It depends on the weather. They could have done
Right.
more. My technical expert is in the back, but we wrote the bid together based on the last specs, and it's at 28 cuts plus some spraying, plus some weed removal. People like the lawns to look just so with the weddings and the events.
Sure.
Wow.
So,
Are you bringing this, just a question, before us because of the amount of money involved? Because it would seem that you run the Farm Museum, you have all that, I mean, you put the contract out, you see lowest bidders, you know, I mean, I'm just asking why don't you
I
just
believe
say,
it's
okay.
county procedure. I would defer to the county administrator, but I believe it's county
Okay.
procedure.
Just because it just seems like it's common sense, okay, just lowest bidder, we got it.
Anything over 25,000.
That's what I
we
thought,
have to
the amount of money is
go out
what
to
was
formal
involved,
bid.
okay.
That's state law.
Okay,
No.
I got you.
So we've had a motion, we have had a second, any
Yep.
other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
And he needs
Okay.
a technical director.
Let's revisit with Linda, transportation priorities. Linda and Mary?
Do you have multiple copies?
Yes, so we have multiple copies, 2 different versions for your consideration of placement. I apologize if there's any typos. I don't think there are. Version 1 and 2.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You guys are quick. On top of your game.
So based on our earlier conversation, we prepared 2 different versions pointing out the Maryland 97. Revision 1, it was placed on the second to the last page under the Westminster Community Trail, where we point out our other priority projects. And we listed it as necessary state projects for county community investment priorities, and then added the language in with regards to Maryland 97 at Charles Carroll Building, and referred to the county's commitment through our CIP process in FY18 for the demolition and construction of the new facility, and that this is vitally important for the community. And we mentioned that given its new construction, it must meet newer state standards. And it lists what those state standard or state requirements are with the deceleration lane and the left center turning lane and the estimated cost of that project. So that's one option. The second option is the exact same language, but we put this at the end of the introduction, at the beginning of the priorities, and listed as, again, a necessary state project for county community investment priorities, and then list the same there in the same language. So I hope either of these gets at what you were trying to achieve.
I like Division 1. I think it's in a proper place. I like the language, everything.
Any other
I'll-
thoughts?
I'll concur with that statement.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Back to planning.
To approve as written.
I make a motion, the Board of Commissioners approve the letter, revision 1, and forward to the delegation for the signatures and submission to MDOT.
Do I have a
Second.
Okay, any other further discussion? Appreciate the work and persistence
Absolutely.
in getting a
Thank
great
you.
result. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you very
Thank you
much.
very
We'll
much.
get this out, absolutely.
Okay, do we have any public comments?
Yes,
We have public comment.
we do. Give me one
Bear with
second.
us 1 second. Good morning.
Ms. Mary Kowalski.
Morning, Mary.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Mary Kowalski. Happy rainy Thursday morning. I want to thank you for letting me talk this morning. Last week, about a week ago, I came in and we had a couple other people from the community. And, one of the gentlemen is struggling with an illness and maybe has to get to a doctor's appointment and such like that. And last week, we were told that there wouldn't be any public comment time in the morning session, so it was kind of a shock. But we did go out into the hallway and look at the schedule and say, yeah, it's on that schedule in the hallway. And we brought that information back and said, look, it's on the schedule in the hallway. Then it was conceded that, yes, we were allowed to talk. So I just want to thank you for letting me talk this morning. It's one of the issues I have is like, I kind of feel like it should be democracy, not by invitation, but democracy. It should be for everybody to be able to come and give their opinions. I want to thank you for the community survey you did. And again, I just want to ask that you take into consideration everything on there, and not just the things that kind of fit in with your agenda, and that you want to highlight, but everything. Because, that's what it's supposed to be about. So, I'm here, and I want to bring up this airport expansion issue again. Like I said, we brought it up. We raised over 1,000 signatures, but we have a new board now, and they're again wanting to put this on the front burner, so we have to again go out and raise signatures again. And I want to talk about the issue of growth. I know some people have said, well, if they want to put safety enhancements at the airport, that's great. I'm all for that. I live kind of in that path, the flight path. So if you're going to put safety enhancements, but you don't have to make it bigger to put safety enhancements. So let's not use, things like euphemisms or little catchphrases that sound good to the public and kind of toss them out to make it all gloss over it and make it all sound good. Because if you want to make it safer, you can do that without making it bigger. That's the concern I have. Now, are you making it bigger? I've been told yes. I talked to somebody, a county staff person, a couple weeks ago. He said, yeah, we're going to add 900 feet. Now, I was told before that it was 400 feet. I told before that it was 1,300 feet. So we do have a public information that we're trying to get documents so we can see it in writing. I think the time's passed. I don't know. I'm expecting it. We need to get what's really going on. We don't even know what's going on, except you want to make it bigger. So again, I'm for keeping Carroll County country. My family's farm was put in ag preservation. Well, what good is it to put it in ag preservation and then having, jets low flying back and forth over it? I mean, it's an ag preservation for a purpose, to keep it country. Here I have signatures. Jeff Silverman. These are people all against it. Mr. and Mrs. Grubby, Miss Rao, Mr. Miller, Miss Devilbus, Mercer, Fury, McKenna, Farver, Joyman, Frick,
Mary, I apologize.
Lauren, Jaron, Leister. Yes, sir.
Do you have any closing comment?
Yes, we're going to continue. I can't collect signatures in the rain, but I know you're doing the community survey, and I ask you to listen to us, too. We were told you weren't doing this. I'm asking you to listen to us, too. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you,
Mayor.
Thank you. I feel I should respond. Mary, if I could just respond, because I feel you'll keep coming back. But just, okay. The enhancements to the airport are for safety only. That's the only reason. Let me respond. The only reason the runway is being extended is for safety. And the weather that we have right now, today, if you had a fully loaded airplane coming in and going off, they couldn't land there because the runway is not long enough because of the weather. Now, with the extension of the runway, a jet, plane, whatever, at the same size that we can land there right now, because we're not looking to have any larger aircraft come into that airport, will be able to land and take off in weather that is not ideal. That is the only reason for the enhancement of the airport. There's nothing else. It's not a question and answer. I just answered.
You might not like it, but if you make it longer, bigger planes will come. If you make it longer, they will come.
Back and forth.
So that's counterproductive, gentlemen. That's counterproductive.
Thank you very much.
It's not. We are coming back. I know you don't want us. You told us last week we couldn't talk, but we are coming back because that's supposed to be what democracy is.
Thank you.
Please come
and
back.
And we have the right to protect our homes.
Public comments
people,
are over.
I talked to somebody. They're going to take them out of their home. You're taking people's homes away. Mr. Ross.
If you would like to come back, please.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's it.
But please don't put out the false propaganda.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Agenda. Okay.
Agendas.
Open.
Oh, okay.
Admin agendas, I guess, is next.
Agendas.
Okay. Agendas. So for next week, starting on Monday, March 25th, we have Emergency Response and Safety Grants Reception. Ben Halthorpe, Commissioner Wentz will be attending. The Heroin Still Kills Community Showing Event out of Mount Airy, Commissioner Boucher. That is for Monday. Tuesday, March 26th, we have open session. I need to walk through what's in open session.
Generally, you do, it's
Okay.
just that one item.
Yep, we'll be doing the FY '20 recommended budget presentation by Mr. Zaleski. On Wednesday, March 27th, we have down in Annapolis with MACO, Maryland Association of Counties meetings. Both Commissioner Wance and I will be attending, Commissioner Rothstein. At 12:30, Recreation Parks luncheon, advisory board meeting will be attended by Commissioners Weaver, Boucher, and Frazier, while the two of us are down in Annapolis enjoying life. Now, at 4 p.m., Lorien Tawnytown Care Forward launch will be attended by Commissioner Wance. And then Chamber of Commerce Teacher Award Ceremony that evening will be attended by Commissioners Wance, Weaver, and Frazier. I think I may be attending that. I gotta make sure. On Thursday, we have closed session at 9, and then at 10, our open session. Currently, we're scheduled with, prior to Carol, then the legislative briefing by Mr. Fowler. We'll be having public comment on, what is this? Public comment on this item. On request approval to submit grant application and acceptance of grant award FY 2020 discretionary grant on adult drug courts. We'll be having a discussion on a request approval to accept Continuum of Care 2018 planning grant. We'll be having decision on briefing request to proceed to public hearing. No, I apologize. Yeah, to proceed to public hearing on 2221.
You've already
No.
had the public hearing. This
Got
is
it.
the decision on the IR text.
It's the IR text amendment.
For the
Okay.
breweries, right.
Item
This is harder than it
5,
looks,
I know, that's
isn't
why
it?
Commissioner Wentz needs to be doing this. Public comment.
That may not come to fruition.
You're
It's
killing
something
me.
the sheriff
On
wants.
restructuring positions from the sheriff's department. We'll be having discussion on what? Glass beads for roads. Bid approval for glass beads for roads. We will have discussion and decision on office trailer for Hodges. We'll be having, discussion decision on a bid approval for Brian Maker. Item 9, we will be having a discussion decision on bid approval for traffic paint. Item 10, we will be having a discussion decision for bid approval on revised maintenance of traffic operations, Schoolhouse Road, pumping station, and force main. And then we will go into closed session, scheduled for 11:40 that day. We will then have open session and the FY 20 agency hearings are scheduled. Do I need to run down those or no?
No.
Thank you very much. At 5:30 p.m. that afternoon, we will have a retirement celebration for Judge Hughes, attended by Commissioner Wance and Boucher. On Friday evening, Battle of the Books. Commissioner Wance will be attending Francis Scott Key High School, and I will also be attending, Piney Elementary, I believe? No, excuse me, Century High School. I'll be doing opening remarks at Century High School
For the
at
Battle of the Books.
6:30. Correct. That is the same evening, yeah. On March 30th at Mount Zion Methodist Church Pancake Breakfast, Commissioner Weaver will be eating. At 10 o'clock that morning, Luna Moth
Why is
Project.
that on schedule?
I'm not sure. Luna Moth Project dedication ceremony, and all of us will be attending that at Bear Branch. Commissioner Frazier will be doing the commissioner's report. I look forward to that. That later that morning, Shepherd staff empty bowl. Commissioner Wentz will be having some food.
Can I ask a question about
Or
Thursday?
volunteering.
The agency here, we're having all those agencies in the afternoon?
Mm-hmm. 15 minutes each.
Yeah, right.
1, 2, 3,
That's
4,
I mean, that's a
5,
lot.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
I don't know,
3 hours.
I don't know if that's
Hopefully they
realistic.
bring coffee for us.
That is 3.5 hours block time from 1, probably finishing by 1700 by 5.
And that's
Yeah,
if they
it'll be
get, I just think that's too
Right.
much for one afternoon, I really do. And that's because
I don't set those up, those
I-
are set up by budget.
I think it's too much.
We have more the
Just
next,
have a time.
we have more on Tuesday.
Yeah, but we can talk about time limit, but no one goes by the time. Some people do. Most do not go by the time limit.
So,
I just think some should be moved.
appreciate, so the experience, obviously, with the two of you, having sat through this, listening, is 3.5 to 4 hours too long for us to be continuing to get the right outcome we want from these briefings. And then the other question, obviously, what is the risk if we say half of them are gone? Will we have enough time allocated this season to get through all the work we need to get through? That sounds like the biggest concern, is allocating the time to get to the results we want at the end of the day for the budget.
The problem comes in, they need to be short, concise, to the point. And if we
Okay.
get over at the beginning, then
Keep in mind, the purpose is specifically, they're only coming, they should only be coming, and they're told this, if they don't like something in the recommended budget.
Right.
They're not coming to give you an overview of why they do what they do,
Okay.
or, the good work that they do. It's supposed to be, we asked for a vehicle in the recommended budget, we didn't get it, here's why we need it. So it should be fairly narrowly focused.
So the intent is we'll be good stewards of time, and we'll get through this in 3.5 to 4 hours,
Yeah.
and we'll move on.
And it is hard. It is
Yeah.
hard, but
Understood.
time gets very compressed at budget time, and
It
that's,
does.
it's always a
I know.
challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So we can,
That just seems like an awful lot. I mean, if you look at the next week,
Yeah.
we're having 2 days of agency hearings with about half on each of one of those days of what's being presented here. I'm just throwing it out there.
No, I
think that's a
appreciate it.
lot.
I mean, again, it's going to be a new experience for us sitting through
and we do need to be
this.
fair to them. Everybody has a concern.
That's right.
Yeah, and I'm not saying they shouldn't be heard. I just
Yeah.
think it's an
That's right.
awful lot for the
Yeah.
afternoon. And I'm thinking,
The attention
I
of
don't
the
know,
10th
right.
has to be the same attention we give the first. And we got to be prepared to do that, so. okay.
well, we could probably move some of our, it's hard to move outside agencies,
Uh-huh.
but we could move Department of Citizen Services, Land and Resource Management, and I see quickly are on the 28th. We could move them to the afternoon of the 2nd. The
Okay.
problem with the morning
We
of the
have
2nd.
budgets The April 2nd, there's agency hearings.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
That's fine. And we'll just
To
add them
add
to them.
those
Right.
two, to those
we
agency
add those
hearings
two
to
to
balance
those.
it out.
Right.
Oh,
I know what I'm talking.
Yeah.
Where was I going? Sorry. The problem with the morning is you have the economic outlook,
Right.
and so we start late.
I would try
Right.
to leave them in as you have them planned. Just make them aware that we are
No, we'll move those
sensitive
two.
to
I
time
think,
and
I
get
think
right to
moving
the
those
point.
two is reasonable.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can easily.
but
move
still
them.
make them aware, get right to the point,
Yeah.
15
Yep.
minutes.
Right to the
because
point.
Yep.
Even with those 2 off, there's still a lot. And
Yes, it is.
it's the way it runs. And I know people are very enthusiastic about their whatever agency that they're representing and their need and their compassion. And I understand all that. But I understand it lasts 30 minutes.
No,
Put it
and
that way.
again,
Oh,
as
should be
long,
15 or.
Yeah, I know, I'm just saying.
we meet the intent that we give the attention to the first as strong as we give the attention to
Right.
the last.
Exactly.
So, okay. If you
Yeah,
can
so
move
we can,
those
we can
two,
definitely try
I
to balance that a little better.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, the following week, April 1st, Dream Big over at Union Bridge meeting, and I'll be attended by Commissioner Boucher, as he always dreams big.
It's the wrong day to
Tuesday-
put that on there, but that's okay.
April Fool's, what are you trying to say?
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. Tuesday, April 2nd, Economic Outlook, as you, Roberta mentioned, all 5 of us will be attending the Economic Outlook for 2019. And then 11 o'clock, we'll have to start open session, with 11 being the budget hearings. We have a handful that'll be there. And then in the afternoon, we have the same agency budget hearings. If you could adjust, make those additions. Wednesday, April 3rd, it's going to be an exciting day. We have Seniors on the Go Expo. I believe all of us will be attending that over at the Ag Center. And then 6 p.m., I get to have a work session with Planning and Zoning Commission. Thursday, April 4th, Carroll County Ag Business Breakfast, attended by Commissioner Weaver, once again having breakfast. At 9 o'clock, Board
It's a
of
theme.
County Commissioners, closed admin session. 10 o'clock, we have open
Can I have one request on that we move our open session back to 9:15? That is very tight in there.
Our closed session?
On Thursday, April
Yeah.
4th, yeah.
Our
Closed session.
closed
sorry,
session.
To 9:15.
Sure.
Maybe even 9:30.
I'm always getting up and leaving early.
They
and-
appreciate that over there.
Time after time.
They pay us to have it in.
I didn't realize that.
I got a call that said, how about 8:45?
Okay, so Thursday, the adjustment will be at 9:30, we will have closed session. At 10 o'clock, we'll still be prepared for open session, started with Mike Fowler giving us probably the last legislative briefing, if not the second to last.
It'll be the last in the normal, in the way
right,
he's been doing it.
right.
He'll come back after signing die,
As a
probably
follow-up.
Probably not that Thursday, but maybe the week after that,
Okay.
and give us the wrap-up, yep.
And then following that, we'll have, let's see, discussion and possible decision on veteran shuttle. And then item 3, we will have a discussion decision on 2019 hot mix asphalt paving bid approval. We have a tentative at item 4, a briefing of access control project. Item 5, we have discussion and possible decision on request approval for grant award FY 2020 physical security grant for the circuit court. Item 6, we'll have a discussion decision on the FY 20 community partnership agreement. Item 7, we will have a briefing on opioid litigation by our own Mr. Burke. And then we have, let's see.
What happened to
Okay.
Thursday?
What's that?
It is Thursday.
Thursday.
I have added an afternoon session to that, to Thursday, the 4th.
You did.
To the second?
The 2nd.
Yeah.
No, I
It-
apologize,
have
I'm
the
on
wrong date.
Tuesday.
It's the 4th.
So I'm on Tuesday. Oh, no,
Yeah,
you're right,
exactly.
I'm on Thursday.
Yeah, and there's an afternoon session for, this hour and a half.
Is there?
And what is the agenda for the afternoon
It's
session?
From Rob, those utility,
Enterprise funds, information on enterprise funds and utility rates.
So on Thursday, April 4th, we will have an afternoon session beginning at 1 PM on enterprise funds, scheduled for about an hour and a half. Right? Okay. On Friday, April 5th, let's see, we have Carroll County Farm Museum volunteer recognition. Commissioner Wentz and Rothstein will be attending that at 6:30 PM. Again, Battle of Books over at Finksburg with Commissioner Weaver. Battle of Books over at Westminster Area Middle School with Commissioner Frazier attending that. On Saturday at 10 a.m., we have Finksburg Baseball Opening Day Ceremony with Commissioner Weaver, hopefully throwing it across the plate at 11:30.
Make it to the plate.
Christian Farmers Outreach Luncheon, attended by Commissioner Frazier, once again eating lunch. At 5 p.m., I will be at the Sykesville Freedom District Fire Department Annual Banquet, enjoying myself down on Freedom Firehouse. On Sunday, Commissioner Boucher will be doing a commissioner's report. And then at 1 p.m., Gamber Fire Department Open House, attended right now by Commissioner Weaver. Anything else added to the agendas?
I've been volunteered to do Battle of the Books for Mount Airy Elementary, but I'm not sure what day it is. Do they?
They stretch them out, so could be the following week or
I
something.
think mine's the first, but I'll check with Vivian and we'll make sure. Okay?
Are we going to get, I know it was on the agenda, was taken off about solar around the airport. Are we going to update about that, or is that coming soon?
There's some
or-
complications, we'll be in touch.
Okay, but we're still looking at something to do with that, okay.
Because we
Maybe.
should,
And the Gamber Fire Hall Open
Solar.
House, I'm not sure if I'm going to go, but add my name just in case, because I don't, I like to have the
Send
name there in
the
case they show
ambulance
up. Okay.
okay, anything else for open admin? Any topics?
Yes. So you had a closed land acquisition last week, and you should have in
We
your.
should have it in our.
Yeah, so I just
Okay.
need a motion to approve those closed minutes and the closing statement.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. Frazier.
Waiting for your lips
I'm
to
good.
stop moving. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Put them back in your envelopes and we'll collect them later.
Put them back in our
Thank you.
envelopes and we'll collect them. Anything else for open session?
Other than
Judge-
signing stuff.
I will share, I had a planning and zoning committee, commission meeting the other day, and solar did come up, so I appreciate the, discussion on solar. The intent was somebody asking about a solar field on ag, on a farm. So I think we need to follow up on that, and, not necessarily just wait for the text amendments and changing.
I would
you know,
suggest
definitions.
that we reach out to Farm Bureau and get their, Carroll County Farm
Yeah.
Bureau,
Yeah.
and get their take on it before we
Yeah.
look at anything else, really.
I agree. Maybe put that on the agenda.
Sure.
Because, solar.
I'm
I
pretty
mean,
sure
there's
they've
a lot
already
of
weighed in
topics.
at least once on that, haven't they?
They have, but I think it's good for.
Well, it's fine to get an
Good for
update.
all of us, and then we're also getting ready for text amendments and changes to zoning, so.
Yeah.
And, you keep in mind, as we look at, this is my personal opinion here, as we look at text amendments and we look at into the zoning amendment, we don't have a crystal ball. We can't see what's gonna come up 10, 15, 20 years from now. We have to keep flexibility in our zoning. And we don't wanna narrow ourselves into narrowing things. And I think we as a commission need to continually, keep open-minded, that we always have an amendment or some way that things can change and things we don't even envision happening in 20 years down the road. So it's just one of those things I want to remind us. I think we just have to keep open mind and we don't narrow ourselves into this. It can only happen this way, as the way it is today, and things will change. Who would think we were looking at hemp production? Who would think we were looking at solar 20 years ago? I mean, these are all things that are reality today that weren't then, so.
Microbreweries and wineries, I mean, it's a
And
good example of
forthcoming
that.
hovercraft.
Yeah,
What's that?
yeah.
Forthcoming hovercraft, you never know.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea of maintaining some flexibility. It helps with business growth and management.
Oh, yeah, big time.
We're all attending boards and commissions, getting feedback from those boards and commissions, the Veterans Council. There was a lot of discussion during that, and a lot of energy that's, is gonna feed into some of the discussions with the shuttle service that we're gonna have later on. Aging and Disabilities Commission, the Senior Expo that we're all attending, there's a lot of energy on that, so.
Yeah, sometimes we definitely have to report back some of the things we're talking about in some of
Yeah.
these agencies and what's happening. It's important that we have a chance to discuss it between us without anybody or without input, just to get our view on where we're going. I
Right.
agree with you.
Because, you attended the community college board. So we're getting one-on-one discussions, again, the intent to continue to open it up amongst all of us, so we're all driving it. Because we all have meetings with, the head of the college and Dr. Ball and all that kind of stuff, so how do we put it all together? So, okay. Any other open discussions we want to have for the rest of the week? No? Do I have a motion to, do we adjourn?
Adjourn.
Sure, we're not going back.
So moved. We adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Favor aye. All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
You're
Thank
adjourned.